I don't tell people what to believe spiritually, but I believe that ultimately, whatever you believe, you got to live it, and it should lead to growing and giving. I think greatness is somebody who just will not settle and finds a way to do, be, share, and create in life what they want. I always tell people, know not only what you want, but why you want it. I know this is simplistic, but most people just don't do the blocking and tackling of their life.
Need motivation?
Watch a top 10 with Believe Nation.
Top 10, I got a top 10. Got my motivation high for my top 10. Gotta learn from the wise women and men. All my life, like 9 and 9. For my top 10, top 10, 9 and 9. This one's for my top 10.
Hey, it's Evan Carmichael, and I make these videos because you are probably the most ambitious person in your circle, but you know you're capable of more. And you get that push by surrounding yourself with the best. And today we're gonna look at my take on his top 10 rules of success. Enjoy. Okay, let's kick it off with rule number 1. Make money your slave.
People think they want to get rich by doing this big hit. Look at all the actors, all the athletes, all the movie stars that you've seen that made more money than God and now they're bankrupt because they made money and income working, but they never figured out how to make money work for them while they slept. They never made money their slave. So if you look at like 50 Cent, he made $100 million on vitamin water. Someone gave him a tip and he went bankrupt. Or right now, I don't know if it's really gonna happen, but the newspapers are speculating now, Johnny Depp is going through this divorce. He made $750 million, $750 million, and they're saying he may go bankrupt now because he's gonna have to give up half in his cash position, and he spends $30,000 a month on wine, and he took Hunter Thompson, the reporter, and burned his body and paid $3 million to blow his ashes into the atmosphere. So you can mess up no matter what you do, or you can take a small amount of money and just consistently invest it, and you'll get where you want to be financially.
Rule number 2, get better in asset allocation.
I met with David Swenson. He took $1 billion, turned it into $24 billion in 2 decades, in 20 years. Just mind-boggling, $1 billion a year. Right? Just think about that level of doubling. It's just mind-boggling. And I asked him, I said, what are the dials? What are the only dials we can touch? And he said, Tony, to increase your return, there's only a few things you can do. He said, you can make better selections of stocks. He said, you can have better timing. He said, and you can have better asset allocation. He said, the first 2 will never happen because the first 2 cost you money. Got to hire somebody, everybody's wrong on the timing. He said, asset allocation, which simply means dividing your money into different buckets. Some of those buckets are secure so that even though you think you're gonna be a genius, you're gonna make money no matter what, that money goes slower, but it'll always be there and it'll give you freedom for the rest of your life. There's a growth bucket, which is also a risk bucket. We forget that. Yeah. Because one of the things Ray Dalio taught me, he said, Tony, everybody invests in what they think they know. If you grew up with real estate, you're not a genius, but you made money in real estate because anybody can when real estate's going up. You think you're a genius. You think you know stocks. Oh, you're a genius, in 1999, right? You're a genius in 2010 as things started to grow a bit. He said, whatever you invest in your lifetime, that area is going to drop 50 to 70%. There's zero exception. He can show you mathematically and he can show you historically. Wow. So he said, you have to diversify even though you don't want to. And you have to divide these monies up. So every one of them taught me different asset allocations. But the one that I think is the most valuable for anybody to really take advantage of is Ray Dalio's, because Ray Dalio's figured out, why is it in 2008, if your stockbroker, your financial planner said, we're gonna protect you, we're gonna put you half in stocks and half in bonds, why did they both go down? You weren't protected at all. Same thing happened in 2000. And he figured something out. When you think you're in a balanced portfolio, you're not balanced. And the reason is stocks are 3 times more volatile than you'll find in bonds. What does that mean? It means when you think you're 50-50, you're 50-50 with your money, but you're not 50-50 with your risk. You're 95% at risk and 5% on the good side. That's why everybody loses. So he figured a formula because he said, look, someday I'm gonna be gone. I want my kids to have the money long term. I want all the philanthropic things I'm doing to be taken care of. So he spent 15 years studying the markets and figured out, how do I design a portfolio that'll make money every time? Like, if it loses money, it lost in 75 years, it's lost 1.6% when it's lost, but it's been right 85% of the time. If you went to Vegas and you had a plan that worked for 75 years and made money 85% of the time, and when you lost 1.6%, and when you gained more than 10%. The biggest loss in 75 years is 3.95%, less than 4.
Wow.
So why do people not make it in the stock market? Because when you take a 50% hit, they all say stay in. Nobody, the average person never stays in.
Sure.
If you look at the last 20 years, the average person, the stock market over 20 years, from 1993 to 2013, has averaged 9.2%. Pretty cool compounding. You
Yeah.
double your money pretty damn quick doing that.
Right.
But the average mutual fund investors made 2.5%. Why? Because they freak out, they sell when it goes down, they buy when it's looking good, which is the wrong time to buy it. They don't know what to do. So what Ray Dalio's strategy does, and by the way, he's never shared this strategy ever publicly.
And he gives it in here.
He gives it in here, which is mind-boggling. Now,
Cool.
I pushed him, I teased him, I cajoled him. In the end, I said, look, you're not taking any more money. Help the average guy out. He lays it out. You can do it yourself or you can have someone else do it for you, but it takes 15 minutes a year and 85% success over 75 years. And I could take any time period, the last 30 years. He lost money 4 times. One of those was 0.003%, so it's really break even. So, and again, the most he ever lost, less than 4%, average 1.9%. So if you're looking for a plan, I'd put some money there. Then the other money that I would do is I'd take some of that money and I'd look at what are the biggest trends. I have a lot of my money also in senior housing. And the reason is twofold. It's a demographic inevitability. There's this giant wave of baby boomers, and there isn't enough senior housing to take care of them. And I like it. I like to create a quality place for someone to be able to be lived and taken care of and so forth. But there's huge income from it, and there's the growth in the asset itself.
Rule number 3, be clear about what you want.
You need to be clear what it is you really want. I always tell people, know not only what you want, but why you want it. I know this is simplistic, but most people just don't do the blocking and tackling of their life. The one we were talking to earlier, a great lady, and you could just see she wants to have a new business, but she never sat down to even put a plan together and says, why aren't I taking action? Well, when you're not sure what you're gonna do, you're gonna hesitate. And hesitation kills momentum. And momentum is what makes a sports team win. It's what makes an athlete, a business person win. When you get momentum, it's like takes enormous energy to get a rocket out of our gravitational pull of the earth. But out of the solar system's easy. Once it has momentum, it takes less fuel, less energy. Starting a relationship, starting a business, changing your body. It takes so much in the beginning, but once you get going, it's actually really easy.
Rule number 4, give back.
I don't tell people what to believe spiritually, but I believe that ultimately, whatever you believe, you got to live it, and it should lead to growing and giving. If you're growing, you feel alive. If you're giving, you feel 10 times more alive. And I think if someone can celebrate and give, then that's spiritual state. So to me, those are the areas I look at mastering. Business for sure, but it's the areas of life that matter most. And most of where we spend our time doesn't make people feel fulfilled. That's why the average person is not fit and healthy. The average person is not in a relationship where they have tremendous passion. I'm not a dummy. I'm not a positive thinker. I know the truth. The average person is not successful in business. The average person is not earning what they want to earn. But you know what? Very few people have those things, but a few do. A few are happy, fulfilled, spiritually alive, financially strong, their business is growing, they have passionate love affairs, and I'm obsessed with finding the few who do and find out what they do different and teaching to everybody. Learning it for myself and teaching everybody else.
Also, if you want to have more self-belief and self-confidence, I've designed a special free program to help you get it, where I send you a video every day for 254 days. The research says it can take up to 254 days for you to build a new habit, and this program will help you get it. Once again, it's free, and the link to join is in the description below.
The fact that human beings, our strongest drive is the need to stay consistent with how we define ourselves. 40% of all jobs they project in the next 10 years are going to disappear because of technology. One of the most important decisions you make in business is, ultimately, if I was going to sell this, if I chose to, I have to know what I sell this to so that I have long-term value.
Rule number 5, save money for tomorrow.
I interviewed all these Nobel Prize guys as well as all these self-made billionaires. And one of them was a man named Shlomo. He was really brilliant. He said, you know what? People don't invest because A, they say, I can't, I don't have the money. But we're all good at dieting tomorrow. I'm going to go on a diet tomorrow. We all believe it. Or we're all good at saving tomorrow. We're not going to save today because we want to spend the money, but we'll save in the future. So he said, I took that pattern and figured out a strategy. And he proved it worked in the Midwest of the United States with blue-collar workers who'd never saved a dime. He went to them and said, I know you say you have no money. I'd ideally like you to save at least 5%, but minimum promise me 3.5% because no one's going to miss 3.5%. You'll adjust that easily. But here's what we're going to do. We're going to do this plan called Save More for Tomorrow. We're going to go to your employer, and you're going to tell them that whenever you get a raise, whatever it is, next year, 2 years, 10 years, doesn't matter when, 5%, whatever, the first 5% of money goes straight into this account. Well, within 15 years, these blue-collar workers were saving an average of 15%, and the top 40% were saving 20%. When you save 20, that's the example of the guy from, who goes and he's got $70 million. He saved 20% over time. So anyone can do it.
Rule number 6, be outstanding.
What's your definition of greatness?
I don't know. I think everyone has greatness. I don't like that separation. I respect it because in sports, I think it's really easy to measure. But sports is one aspect of life. I think everyone has the opportunity to be great. To me, being great is being outstanding, to stand out from all the rest. And as you know, in sports, it can be by, a few microseconds, right? In the Olympics, it could be a nose hair and you stand out. If you stand out, you show other people what's possible. Not everybody likes that. Some people get angry and think you're showing them up. Other people get inspired. I've always been inspired by somebody who's the best in the world at what they do. And so I think greatness is somebody who just will not settle and finds a way to do, be, share, and create in life what they want, as opposed to fitting in. I think most people are trying to not be rejected. I wrote in this book, I took a quote from Aristotle saying, how do you really live your life? Well, if you don't want to upset anybody, it's really simple. Don't do anything, don't say anything, don't be anything, and everybody will like you. Know? But if you want to have a quality life, I think you just have to put yourself on the line. And so to me, greatness is people that put themselves on the line, they keep growing, they won't settle.
Rule number 7, commit to mastery.
We live in a culture where most people are dabblers today because today, if you ask me, what does it take to be happy? I can give it you one word: progress. Progress equals happiness. When you're making progress in your body, even if you're not there yet, you feel good. You achieve your goal and you just sit around, you're not happy. We gotta grow, we gotta make progress. It's easy to make progress in the beginning of something. In the beginning of a relationship, who doesn't have a good time, right? In the beginning of starting a business, if you love what you're doing, of course you're gonna have a great time. In the beginning, anything, it's easy. A job, it's fun in the beginning. It's novelty, it's new. Mastery is when you've worked, in the beginning, learning a sport. How fast do you learn tennis? I mean, just like zooms up here. You didn't know anything. You thought love, was an emotion. You find out it's a score, You go like this, but then you hit this plateau. And most people hit that plateau, they go, wrong job, wrong relationship, wrong business, because it's not instantly fulfilling them. But the people that go, I'm gonna fight through and go deep. I'm gonna find a way to break through. I'm gonna find a way to learn and know more about this, any human alive, so that I can help as many human beings as possible, and it won't be bullshit, because I've lived it. There is a power in mastery. And how many people do you know are really committed to mastery today? Most people dabble in a million things, they master nothing, and they wonder why they're unfulfilled. Because they're running for the sugar, the next thing that feels good, instead of getting past what doesn't feel good and getting to where you own something.
Rule number 8, think bigger.
I went through a divorce. I met a woman, fell in love with her, and fell in love with her kids. She'd been married twice before me. She was 12 years my senior. So I was 24 and had a 17-year-old son instantly, an 11-year-old, a 5-year-old, and then one on the way. Really great lady, but we're completely different. No one tells you how to pick your partner. But I fell in love with the children, so I was like, I don't want to lose these kids, So I eventually decided to get a divorce. And when I got the divorce, it was a not happy divorce from the standpoint of I tried to give her half of everything, but they got a 8 times and a 10 times multiple on all my companies. In those days, I didn't have 31, I had like 7. And they were small companies. They weren't billion-dollar companies. They were like less than 100 million, most of them. And some of them were only dependent upon me, like a doctor. If I don't show up, the whole thing falls apart. And so I'm looking at this. I got to pay her 8 and 10 times. I got to pay her $50 million, and I didn't have $50 million. So I settled in $42 million. I had to pay her $42 million when I didn't have it, and I started over at 39 years old. And I had to pay her not only $42 million, but I pay her $1 million a year for 17 years. I was only married to her for 14 years, right?
Wow.
So I just paid that off a couple of years ago. And the reason I tell you the story is, in the beginning, I had to pay her $1 million a year, plus I had to pay the taxes on it before I ate. It was, and when I met her, she was broke. Now I was broke, and I was the best in the world at what I was doing. But the power of that was, when I wouldn't let go, when I finally said, I'm gonna stop being angry, I'm just gonna automate it and let go, my capacity grew tenfold. It's like, I never looked back. It's like, because I had to come up with an additional $1 million, I had to think bigger, I had to do things bigger. So I started creating new relationships, new partnerships, new businesses, and it made me grow to a $5 billion a year company, set of companies, versus not even a little more than 100 million back in those days. So in 8 years, my life has transformed because I put that tax on myself and I invested heavily, and I didn't have the money to do it, but I did it anyway because I had to.
Rule number 9, strengthen your body.
And the second thing I tell people is feeding your mind's great, but you got to also strengthen your body. And you do that as an athlete naturally. I learned to do that because fear is physical, right? You know where you feel it. And if you go work out, if you go lift, if you go run, even if you're out of shape, you just go for an intense walk, that experience alone changes your life. Every day of my life, the first thing I do before I do my priming, if I'm at one of my homes, I jump in some hot water for fun, and then I jump in freezing water. And I have, a river, in one of my homes in Sun Valley, and I've got cold plunges everywhere else. So I go in 57-degree water, boom. And what it does is it's teaching my brain. I tell my brain what to do, and it does it. It doesn't feel like it, doesn't want to do it, and every cell in your body is alive, right? So it doesn't have to be 2 hours worth of something. It can be something you do for 30 seconds, but it's training your body to be strong, because a strong body creates a strong mind, and vice versa.
And rule number 10, the last one before a very special bonus clip, is balance certainty with uncertainty.
We all have a need for certainty. We have a need to know we can avoid pain, that we can be comfortable. Some people do that when they're stressed by smoking. Some people work out hard to deal with it. Some people eat to try to get that comfort back. But if you were certain every moment of your life, you knew what people are going to do, when they're going to do it, how they're going to do it, you'd be bored out of your mind. So we also need uncertainty. If you have too much uncertainty, you freak out. If you have too little, you feel bored out of your mind. And you can get uncertainty or variety by a great conversation, by making love, by taking on a new job or a new career, or a new opportunity. You get a million ways. The question is, do you meet your needs in ways that are positive or negative? Because sugar will make you feel good in the moment, but you feel good long term. Smoking a cigarette will make you comfortable and certain, but it might be variety. It changes how you feel when you're stressed, so it meets two needs.
That's why it's
not sustainable. But that's what makes somebody addicted.
Now I've got a really special bonus clip that I think you're gonna enjoy. But before that, it's time for the question of the day. I wanna know, what was your single biggest takeaway from this video, and how are you gonna take action on it this week? When you schedule in what day, what time, and what place you're going to take action, you have a 91% chance of actually following through versus just a 35% chance if you just got motivated but never created a specific plan. And when you share your plan publicly and have some accountability, you increase your chances even further of actually following through. So I want to know your single biggest takeaway and your plan of action this week in the comments so I can celebrate you.
I think in people's lives, there's only maybe half dozen, 7, 8 categories that really matter. Most people, they major in minor things. They focus on stuff that doesn't matter. They know more about this celebrity going in and out of rehab than they do about their own personal development. But I look at and say, if you look at your body, where you're starting, without that, everything else is out the door. You don't want to be richest man in the graveyard. That's not going to do it. If there is energy, if there's vitality, if there's strength, it's going to show up in your relationship. It's going to show up in your business, show up in your life.
If you want to change your life for free in the next 30 days, check out my training right here below. Or if you want 10 more awesome rules from Tony Robbins, check out the video right there next to me. I think you'll enjoy them. Continue to believe, and I'll see you there.